It's 8 o'clock, so let's get started. We're going to talk tonight about CBD. A lot of you, it looks like, don't know a whole lot about CBD. So we're going to talk testimonies tonight, but I'm going to give you a couple tidbits, and I have some of the presenters coming on tonight. We'll give you a little bit of education on that also. So my name is Chèrie Edstrom, and I am a platinum under Chèrie Ross. And CBD has become, I guess, one of my favorite topics that I talk about because I knew nothing about this before. And if you guys are anything like me, when I hear the word CBD, I'm like, this is pot, this is bad, I don't want to be around this. And then Young Living came out with it, and I was like, okay, so really what is this? Digging into CBD and spending tons of time looking at it, what I've concluded is CBD is something that is really good for everyone to be using. If you aren't using it, think of it similar to an oil. It is only going to do something good to you. I read Dr. Ali's whole book. If you like details, it's an amazing book that talks about some of this stuff. But CBD overall is great for you. There's two main questions. I'm only going to spend less than 5 minutes on it because we're going to hear these amazing testimonies by people. But one of the main things that I get from people, and this is what I thought, is, well, isn't CBD marijuana? I'm going to show you a picture, and I want you to see this on, can you see this on the screen, I hope? Let me see.
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, so on the screen, if you can see that, this here, it's a picture of, the picture on the right, if you look at, one shows the hemp plant and one shows the marijuana plant. They are two completely different plants. And what I really thought was like, okay, this is two different plants. And so when I'm taking it, it's not a marijuana plant, it's coming from a whole different plant. So that's one of the main things that I want you to know. And then the last picture I want to show you here is there is a couple different, as in oils, yes, you can get CBD somewhere else. But when you get the CBD from Young Living, it's very different than what you're going to get on the shelf. So when you hear people talking tonight about the testimonies, I want you to know that you cannot just run to your Trader Joe's or your local store and think you're going to get CBD and that you're going to get the same thing, because it is very different. So can you guys see this picture where it talks about like the isolate, broad, and full?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So I want to just tell you, there's a few different things that you should know about it. Full spectrum basically is going to contain THC in it. THC is what the part that makes you high. That is what is in a full spectrum. The broad spectrum is they basically purify the THC out. But what I want to give you the example is if you had a bale of hay and you hear the needles in the haystack, and if you throw needles in the haystack and then you try to pull them out, that's what they're doing. They're trying to pull the needles out, but they're still going to leave the THC in it. Then you get an isolate. An isolate is a good thing. The isolate is coming from the stock and it's just CBD. But in order to have the best scenario, you want to have a terpene. A terpene is an essential oil. So what Young Living does with Nature's Ultra is they take the terpene and the isolate and they put them together, and that is what full spectrum is. So I just want you to know that there is a difference in CBDs out there. And you know what, we could spend a whole hour talking about it, but we're not going to do that. But I just want you guys to know, like, you can't just go run to the store and think you're going to get the same thing as CBD. Okay, so we're going to talk testimonies on CBD because they are some amazing things. I'll start off with mine. For me, I lived with panic attacks for probably over 10 years. My panic attacks were as a result of antibiotics. My throat closed off and went into anaphylaxis and almost died. And so that to me developed what was panic attacks. If you don't know what they are, it feels like you're gonna die. And like I can hide them, no one knows that I'm having them. And like to the point where like I'd go in the grocery store and I'd have to leave the groceries there. I'd pull off on the side of the road thinking I'm gonna die. I used to go in and get EKGs all the time. So for me, Young Living was great because I got to use oils and that helped maintain it. I used Ningxia Red, I was using frankincense, I would huff that, I would take joy, I would take all of these things. So CBD has come around and like, well, I have not lived with panic attacks for a long time. I mean, so for over the last 5 years, they've really just died down. Occasionally recently, I have popped up with some of them. They're weird, and they always happen in a closed off space, probably because my throat closed off. It was in a mall with a lot of people. And so psychological, when you're around a lot of people, that happens. So I was sitting in church, and all of a sudden it was like a full-blown panic attack. And so when I pulled out of my purse, I had the Calm roll-on, and I knew that that was good for something like this. And so I literally rolled it all over my heart, rolled it on my wrist, behind my ears. I didn't care if anyone smelled it around me or not. And it like shut the panic attack down. And it was like, for me, it was so amazing that it can do something like that for people when you live with something and you have that anxiety, and to be able to get it to shut off. Because what happens is your mind starts going like crazy, and you need to shut off that mind thing. And the CBD, actually, the Calm roll-on does it. Now it smells like perfume, and it's amazing. And so that's my testimony with the Calm roll-on. I'm going to take, my daughter was willing to talk tonight. I did have to buy her Starbucks today to do this, but I wanted her to give you guys, before we go into some of our friends of the team, I wanted her to tell you her story with CBD. So introduce yourself. Who are you?
Hi, I'm Ella. I'm 15 years old.
Come closer. Just talk on the screen.
Hi, I'm Ella. I'm 15 years old, and I'm talking about the Calm CBD roll-on. So I use this to go to sleep. So like, I would usually use lavender, peace and calming. But then one day when my mom came home with this, I used it in the car. We were going to the farmer's market, and I put it on because it smelled really good. So then I put a little extra on, and then we were going to the farmer's market, and then within like 15 minutes, I felt really tired and sleepy. So then we left, and then in the car I fell asleep. So now I use it when I can't sleep and I know I need to go to bed. So I just call my mom and then tell her to put it on, and then I fall right asleep.
So what I tend to get from Ella is I'll be working in my office, which is next door to her, and I'll get a text, and it's like, Mom, bring me the Calm roll-on. And so for her, when she needs to go to sleep and it's not working, we can put that on, and she like can fall asleep right away, right? Yeah. Thank you. Okay, you can go now. Okay, so I have Vicki. So Vicki Monroe is going to give us a story. Just unmute yourself, Vicki. And she is going to tell us her experience with CBD and arthritis.
Hi everyone, I'm Vicki Monroe. I live in Bel Air, Kansas, and I went to the Young Living Convention last summer, July 2019, and I was so excited when they came out with the Nature's Ultra CBD. I've been wanting to try it, but haven't felt good about just getting it off the market. I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis 30 years ago when I was in my late 20s. And it took a while for the rheumatologist to figure out what medicines worked for me. And they started me on methotrexate. That's the one that finally put me into remission back 30 years ago. And so the problem with it is the methotrexate lowers your immune system. So every time I would get sick or have to have a surgery, I'd have to go off of it. And typically I would flare something awful, which means my hands swelled up like sausages, and my knees would swell up, and I'd have a lot of pain. So fast forward to it was around September, I guess, of 2019. I was getting ready to have another surgery and had to go off of methotrexate. And I had a bad flare earlier in the year and had to add Enbrel, which is a biologic, to keep me in remission. So I was taking 2 different shots a week, methotrexate and Enbrel. So in August, I go every 3 months to my doctor to get my, what they call the SED rate taken, blood taken, and that's the inflammation rate. So back in August of 2019, my SED rate was 14, which my inflammation rate, and that's within the normal ranges. When you have rheumatoid arthritis, they consider that in remission. You're not terribly flaring at 14. So I started taking the, when I went to that doctor's appointment and found out my SED rate, I asked my rheumatologist and told her about the CBD, the Nature's Ultra CBD. And I said, are you okay with me trying this to see if it helps my inflammation? And she said, yeah, you can try that. I don't have a problem with that. Some people have good results and some people don't. But she wanted me to stay on my methotrexate and Enbrel while I tried it. So I started it back in August. And then I stopped it in September for my I stopped methotrexate and Enbrel in September for my surgery. But I continued to take the drops sublingually under my tongue. And I never flared. And then I went back and got my sed rate taken in December after the surgeries, and I had not gone back on the methotrexate or the Enbrel, and my sed rate was lower than it had been when I was on the methotrexate and the Enbrel. So my rheumatologist said, oh, she says, would you like, and I told her, I said, I haven't gone back on my methotrexate or my Enbrel since my surgery. And she said, oh, well, your sed rate's lower than it was when you were on those two meds. Would you like to go off of them? And I about fainted because that's a rheumatologist doctor telling me I can go off my meds. So I've been off my meds now, and all I'm taking is my CBD oil. I haven't been back in since December to get my sed rate taken, which is, I do that this Friday. So I will know, but I know I'm not flaring because I'm not hurting. My hands aren't swelling up like sausages and my knees aren't swelling. So I'm very happy to be off the biologic and the methotrexate, and especially with all the virus stuff going on, my immune system can be elevated and healthy. And oh, by the way, I'm taking the 1,000 milligrams, and I've tried all 3 flavors, and they're all very mild, so they're all very good.
And how many drops, Vicki, are you doing?
I started out with 5 drops, and then I didn't feel like I was quite as pain-free as I wanted to be, so I've upped it, and now I'm taking half a dropper at night. I just stick it under my tongue at night and let it sit there and try not to swallow for at least a minute.
That's awesome. I love your story. I love hearing it over and over again. It's so good. Okay, so Marie, do you want to pop on? Okay, I unmuted you, Marie. You can talk.
Okay, you got it?
Yep.
I've had quite a few pretty horrific things happen to me over, my lifetime. And then I think that the thing that topped it off in 2015 was when my brother had a motorcycle accident, and we actually had to take him off of the ventilators and all the the hookups and everything, and I watched him die, and that just set me off to where I started shaking inside and outside. I mean, especially inside, it was just a constant shaking. I couldn't, nothing that I did would make it go away. And so then when we went to convention, I mean, I had even gone to the doctor for, what can I do? Can I do some kind of, emotional therapy or, whatever. I'd been taking the oils and nothing helped me. And I was so, you just are very on the edge all the time. Any little thing, any little confrontation, any little thing that it would just set me off, and I would just start shaking and crying. And I mean, I just had to live with it. So then when we went to convention and the CBD was revealed at that time, Nadine and I were trying, smelling and trying, and we would try the muscle rub and the calm and, all the flavors, and that was a couple of days. And you know how convention is, you're here and there and everywhere. And then you get back to the room and you drop and you get up and you do it over again. So I get back home and I'm talking to one of my friends and I'm telling her about convention and everything that was, all the new products. And yes, that was a good day. And I told her about all the new products. And I said, you know, and I learned so much about CBD and it's not bad. You know, it's not the marijuana. It's, you know, I just started sharing with that. And I said, we tasted the different flavors. We rubbed the muscle rub on. And I'm just using my hands because I talk with my hands, you know. And then all of a sudden I said, you know, and I'm going to see how it works. And then all of a sudden I look at my hands and I'm not shaking, you know. And then I'm thinking, oh, I'm not shaking. And I think I really feel like I had post-traumatic stress syndrome. And I think I still have it because I still get, you know, things are upsetting to me, but I don't have the shaking like I used to have. And so, so that's one thing. And then the second thing is when I got back from convention, you know, I'm still in that mindset. How do I use it? Do I, you know, put it under my tongue or, you know, cheek? And you hear so many different things. So I'd hurt my back really, really bad after my husband passed away. I was in kind of a angry mode, and I had some things that I was moving around, and I picked up a very, very heavy tote, and it was too heavy to even lift at all. But I hurt my back really, really bad. And I went to the doctor. He sent me, I saw orthopedic doctors. I saw a physical therapist. I mean, every doctor you can imagine. I went for months and months. And then I could hardly put my clothes on because I couldn't even lift my leg. If, you know, if I had to lift my leg with my hand to even get my clothes on. Every movement was excruciating. Getting in my car was excruciating. Everything, I hurt so bad. And so when I got back home, I thought, okay, well, I got out of my shower and I got the dropper, and I would drop a dropper full down the middle of my back because I had a broken back in way back in the 80s. And so I had a sensitive back anyway, and I re-injured it. So it was pretty bad. So I took the dropper full of the 1,000 milligram and I dripped it down my back over the scar all the way down. And I found this little, I think it's a lotion spreader with a long handle on it. And I would just rub that in all the way down my back and then up my back and to the side where it hurt really bad. And I don't have pain. I have a little bit of soreness in my right back, but I can lift my leg, I can walk the stairs, I can, you know, I can do just about everything. You know, I still have limits, but I don't have the pain anymore.
I love it. Thanks, Marie.
You're welcome.
Gail, do you want to tell us?
Should I say no or should I say yes?
You're going to say yes. I'm so excited to.
I'm so excited too. I have to say, when you were talking, I saw in your comment about the fun day trying on CBD. Okay, so first of all, I'm Gail. I first tried CBD. I had all the thoughts that Kara had about CBD, right? And then when they announced it at convention this year and we could try it, of course I went to go try it. And I remember in that room putting on the Calm roller, and I was walking around the rest of the display, and all of a sudden I just felt like, I don't even know how to explain it. Like, seriously, the most relaxed feeling I have ever experienced. And I love my oils and I use them mainly for emotions. So like, I feel like I know that feeling, but this was like way above and beyond anything I had experienced anyway with my oils. So like, I'm really excited to get it, and it's been on my wish list since then. And then when it just came back in stock today, I was like, I gotta get it. And now I'm worried that you're all gonna go get it before I go get it. So anyway, but my story actually is mainly about my husband. So my husband, a few months ago, did something to his shoulder where literally he came home from work. He's a plumber, so he's physically lifting heavy things all day long, every day. And he came home from work and he physically couldn't move his right arm. I couldn't move it. He was in so much pain, and he had separated his shoulder 20 years earlier from a hockey injury. And so he always has issues every once in a while, but this was unlike anything else. So he ended up going to an orthopedic, had an MRI because they were concerned what was going on, found out that he actually fractured his collarbone 20 years ago during the same time that he had his shoulder blade separated. So here he's been walking around with this, so he had massive inflammation. And so he was told basically that he would need a cortisone shot, which to him was good news because he went into it assuming he was going to need surgery on his shoulder and be out of work, which of course is hard for him. But found out he would need a cortisone shot, right? Am I saying that right? You know what I mean? The steroid shot. Anyway, he looked at me and said, do you think we could just do this with oils and that CBD stuff instead? And this is coming from a man who's been a skeptic for years. So I was like, yes. So I'm like, yeah, we could try it. Let's try it. So of course I got the higher strength of the muscle rub, and we started putting that on his shoulder. And he said to me, the man of many words, said to me, I don't have any pain really. It's like, I'm not taking Advil anymore even. And he used to take Advil every single day, like almost every day for as many years as I've known him. And he didn't need that anymore. And he didn't need a cortisone shot anymore. He said that when I put the rub on him, it seems like it gets in deeper than any other like topical medication or anything that he's been on. And it lasts a lot longer. And we are not very consistent with putting on. So I think that even if we were more consistent, he would see phenomenal results. But just the fact that doesn't have any more pain, doesn't need a cortisone shot. I mean, if someone doesn't need a cortisone shot anymore, I would say it's worth it. So,
That's awesome. And remember what you said when he took that, and like you opened the cap and you just put like the teeny amount on yourself? Do you remember messaging me? So talk about that.
Yeah. So I put on the amount on him. I put it on him, and then I had like leftovers on my hand and rubbed it on the back of my neck. And I could not believe how strong it was and how great it worked with like virtually nothing. Like I hardly used any on the back of my neck, and I felt it for hours. It was great. You don't need much. A little jar. Do not let that price scare you for that little jar. It'll last forever and be, so good.
That's awesome. Bonnie, do you want to tell us about you and Chèrie?
Okay, so I was hesitant. I'm Bonnie Williams. I'm a platinum and cross-line Takara under Chèrie. And so I was really skeptical about CBD too. And mostly I think I understood that there were probably some real benefits to it, but I just didn't trust the sources of CBD. And I live in Colorado, where there's a CBD shop on every corner in a little bitty town. So, but I just never was willing to go try anything, because it was like, I don't know what they do. I don't know where that comes from, that kind of thing. So I was super excited when I went to convention and they had the CBD there. And so I think I was one of the very first people in line, and we had gone and I got the whole thing and everything. And kind of my first experience with it was my husband was with me at convention, and about 8.5 years ago, he had a very severe brain injury that left him unable to walk or talk for a period of time. I mean, he's somewhat recovered from that. He walks and talks, but he does have on occasion times, and especially when he's around like lots of people and crowds where it's really noisy, the noise can just kind of reverberate and cause his brain to kind of get wacky again. And so what it does is it causes him to start slurring his speech, maybe start walking with a limp and stuff, and even shaking, a lot of shaking. So we had been at convention and everything, and he had gotten to the point where you could imagine convention being kind of a bad place for somebody with brain injury, right? So he had gone back to the room. I got all the CBD. I went to the room to just drop off my stuff, and he was there, and he was still shaking, like his head was like shaking really bad. And it had been that way most of the day just because of being around so many people. And I said, maybe you ought to try the CBD stuff. So I opened one of the, we got the 1,000 milligram dropper. I opened that and just had him put it under his tongue sublingually. And he put some under his tongue and his head stopped shaking. And it was like, okay, I think we're onto something here. I think this is good. So, and he doesn't use it all the time, but when he starts having trouble, that is something that's one of our go-tos now, that he will, and he played around kind of with a dosage, and I think he ended up, I mean, like I said, we had the 1,000 milligrams, and he would put maybe a quarter to a half a dropper under his tongue when it's really bad. So that's kind of our story. And like I said, he doesn't use it all the time, but he does use it when things are bad. So I've been using the CBD just because I think that, and not that I felt like there was anything necessarily wrong. I don't have a lot of pain. I take a lot of sulfurzyme. I just don't have a lot of joint pain or things like that. But we were doing a challenge on our teams recently. And so the challenge was to take the CBD on a regular basis, and I know that, I'd done some research and there's a lot of health benefits. And I thought, there's probably, we have an cannabinoid system. It's probably not going to hurt me. I'm just going to take this on a regular basis and see. And so the thing that I noticed was that I was taking droppers under my tongue, probably about a quarter of a dropper, 1,000 milligram under my tongue every night. And then I was also putting the calm roller on my wrists at night. And I noticed that I was sleeping really good. And the other thing that Karen and I were talking about this, just happened to talk about this not too long ago. And I said, I used to wear one of those mouth guards because I would clench at night. And it was like really clench. And not TMJ like, but just I would clench to the point of like almost, damaging my teeth. And I had gone somewhere during this time that I was taking the CBD, and I had forgotten my mouth guard. And I got back home and I didn't put it in or something. And I was talking to Kara about it. I said, I think that maybe I haven't needed my mouth guard. Like, I'm not clenching. I'm not doing that. And the only thing I can think of is that I'm taking the CBD at night before I'm going to bed. So I don't know. I'm just saying, for me, that's been something that I've just quit wearing my mouth guard for the last several months, and I don't seem to need it anymore. And that's the only difference that I can think of. So that's kind of my story.
Perfect. Thank you. Next up, we're going to have Janet Muse.
Sorry, I had to unmute myself. Hi, I'm Janet, and my story is about the muscle and joint rub, the CBD muscle and joint rub. It was about a year and a half ago, and I had injured my SI joint, which if you're not familiar with that, that is what helps you walk, do that motion. And it got to the point to where I had to crawl in from my deck to get in my house. I physically could not walk. Steve finally talked me into going to the emergency room. And that's a big thing for me. I don't go to the emergency room. I go through my oils and everything else first. And so I went in there and they couldn't find anything wrong with me. They told me to go to the bone and joint doctor. So I went over there and they told me it was my SI joint. And he told me I need to be really careful because it was so bad that he said that it might get to the point to where I won't be able to walk at all. So this has been a year and a half. July, here comes the CBD. You know, I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna give this a shot. So I started using the muscle and joint rub. I've been using oils, I've been using everything else I could think of. And all of those things helped for a short term. And then I'm like, well, I'm just going to use that muscle and joint rub. So I started applying it about 4 times a day to my SI joint, down my hip, and down my pelvis. And I did that for a couple weeks. I am now able to walk 3 miles, which is huge. I couldn't even walk a block. So it has done wonders for me. I was at the point where I was so I've always been active, so getting to the point to where you can't walk, I'm like, there has to be something. So I am so grateful for the CBD muscle and joint pain. It's just called the SI joint. I see somebody asking, the sacroiliac joint. So that's my story, and it has worked wonders.
Sacroiliac.
Okay, thank you. Sarah, we're gonna have Sarah talk next.
Hey everyone, my name is Sarah, and in 2016, I was diagnosed with Lyme. When I was talking to my doctor, he came to the conclusion that when I was about 12 years old, I was already showing signs of untreated Lyme, and that it had kind of taken over my body and started to cause a lot of damage. So in 2016, I had had untreated Lyme for over 25 years. I had a lot of inflammation in my body and a lot of other things that I really needed to get a handle on. Pain was pretty much a constant, and it had been a constant in my life since before I was 12. And he had suggested, my doctor suggested, that I started using CBD. So this was clearly before Nature's Ultra and Young Living came together. And I started using the full spectrum CBD that he recommended. It was the most disgusting, nasty thing that I have ever tasted in my life. And I can take mineral essence in a shot glass without flinching. Okay, so I can handle some gross. This was nasty. So if you have ever come across somebody who has a full spectrum CBD that is suspended in hemp oil, basically it tastes like they're licking an elephant's butt every single time they take it. It's the most disgusting thing that they probably have ever tried to choke down. So that was my first experience with CBD. Because it was full spectrum and because it was suspended in hemp oil, there are some side effects when you're taking it internally under your tongue. I got those after about 3 days. I got really, really sick, had a horrible experience with CBD, said this is not for me, and didn't use it. And then Young Living said, hey guys, we're gonna release the CBD oil. And I went, it's not for me. I am not taking this. I do not want this in my life, all right? Because my first experience was horrible. It tasted horrible, and it gave me this incredible stomach distress, cramps. It was a miserable experience. I would have rather just have had the inflammation and pain. So when Young Living first partnered with Nature's Ultra and we could order it, I I signed up for whatever you could do to get the PV and said, I have to be a big girl. I have to order this. I have to try it. I have to have a testimony. As a leader, I have to be able to share my experience with other people. And you know what? If it doesn't work for me again, then I'll just give samples out to the rest of my team. It'll work for somebody. So I started with the 1,000 milligram mint CBD oil, and I started using it the exact same way that my doctor prescribed to me over 3 years before, sublingually under my tongue. It tastes amazing in comparison because the MCT has that like sort of sweet coconut flavor to it, and the oil flavor is very, very light, so it's not overpowering. It's not like doing just drops of peppermint directly under your tongue. So I started taking a full dropper, and the original CBD that I started with was 1,000 milligrams. So that's why I went with the 1,000 milligram. I have a lot of inflammation in my body, so I knew that I needed a lot more than the average person. I wasn't seeing a huge improvement with my pain level, so I played around a lot, and I finally figured out a solution, and I've shared this with other people, so go ahead, try this yourself. When I'm having a pain day where I need a lot of help, what I do is I'll do a half dropper of the 1,000 milligram every half an hour until I've done 6 doses. So over a 3-hour period, I'm getting a full 100 milligrams of CBD within my system, because when you divide the 1,000 milligrams into the 30 drops, and then you do 3 full droppers full, you're getting 33.3 every dropper full. So I'm getting a full 100 milligrams of CBD within my system. Within that 3-hour period, I've had a complete 180 in my pain, and it's long lasting. So it's as if I was able to take care of that for 24 hours. It just goes over like all of the inflammation within the body. It has a conversation with the endocannabinoid system within my body, just talks to it the way that it is experiencing pain, and has a completely different result at the end of it. So if you know somebody who's tried the CBD and they say, oh, it doesn't work for me, try using it differently, because it didn't work for me the first time I used it. It didn't work for me the first time I used the Nature's Ultra. I had to change it up a little bit. So a half dropper every half an hour until you get to the 3 full droppers. And if you do your research, that's within still a safe level of what is acceptable to take within the body in a 24-hour period. But do what seems right for you. You can also muscle test. So I had a great experience with that. I've shared that with a lot of people. They've had experience with it as well, because I had to try all the products. I also got the muscle rub. So you've heard everybody talk about the muscle rub. It comes in this nice little jar. I did only get the 300 milligram because somebody told me that that's all that they needed. It's a super deep jar, and it goes all the way into the side. I've had this jar for over 9 months. This is fantastic. So my pain can go like bone deep. It gets really, really deep within my body. And using the muscle rub, I feel like it goes very deep and it has a good penetrating feel to it. So when you use the muscle rub, you don't even need the 600 milligram. If you feel like your pain is just occasional, start with the 300. If it's not working for you, go with the 600. I'll be honest, I maybe get an hour of relief with this, maybe 2 at the absolute most. I want to try that. I have ordered the 600. I'm still waiting on it. I want to try the 600 milligram to see if I can go longer with it, but I can get an hour to 2 hours with the 300 milligram. And the same thing that Gail said, you need like a fingernail amount out of your muscle rub and spread it all over your body. It lasts amazing. I also got the Calm Roller, which we use. And then at Christmas, when Young Living released the Soothe and the Boost, we got those as well, because I am madly in love with the roll-ons for a couple of reasons. You can use these roll-ons anywhere. So if you have like a scratch or a blemish or anything on your skin, take your Calm Roll-On, rub it on your fingers and put it on that area. Your skin is going to bounce back and go back to its beautiful, glorious self so much faster. It's amazing how much my skin just like bounces back from using that spot treatments on areas. I love having CBD and roll-ons. So one of the things that I've done is I've taken my CBD oil, and whenever I make my own roll-on, or I will crack open the roll-ons that Young Living makes with the little roll-on tools. If you guys haven't seen these roll-on tools, you can get them from the Wild Gear store. You can get them on Amazon. They're just, a lot of the times they just come with your roll-on bottles. So you can kind of find them wherever. So pop the top off of this and put 1 to 2 droppers of your CBD oil in your Young Living roll-on. It's amazing. So Heather, you said any chance that the roll-ons are going to come back soon? I am going to tell you how you make your own. So you take your Breathe Again after you've used it for a week or 2. You pop the top off. You put 1 to 2 dropperfuls of this in there, and boom, you've made your own Soothe roller. You do the same thing with your Thieves, or you just make your own Thieves roll-on and you add your CBD oil to it. Then you end up with the CBD in your roller. So you can make your own rollers that they released and turn any of your roll-ons into a CBD roller. And like I said, you can get this tool on Wild Gear, you can get it on Amazon. It comes with, I've got all of mine. I probably have like 4 of them. They've come when I bought a roll-on kit from Amazon. So just pop the top off, throw your CBD oil in there, make your own roller. Now, the other thing that was a complete side benefit from using CBD was the emotional wellness that you get from that. So the endocannabinoid system that everybody's kind of talked about, that's a more relatively new and not really completely understood system. But what they found is there are little receptors that are picking up these endocannabinoids that are floating around within our body. And they're in our CBD, they're in your echinacea, they're in like black pepper and rosemary and cacao and copaiba and all kinds of different oils that we have. They will interact with this system, the receptors that are part of this system. So the CBD receptors can influence your gut and your digestive system and your muscles and bones. It can influence your immune system, your respiratory system, your central nervous system, which, you know, like one of the side effects of my Lyme, since it eats the myelin sheath from my central nervous system, is that my body starts attacking my nerves. So I shake a lot, but when I'm using my CBD, I don't shake as much, at least not enough where you can really tell. It hides a lot of that stuff. Your CBD or this endocannabinoid system also influences your mood and like the way that you think. So when you are stuck in like a negative feedback loop, when you have negative thoughts trapped in your head and you're trying to work through that and you're working through like maybe some heavy emotional stuff or a lot of loss, when you're using your CBD and you're working through those different things and you're using your emotional oils, you are going to have a better impact from the work that you're doing because the endocannabinoid system is being spoken to and taken care of for you with the CBD. So one of the things that I've noticed is I have had so much better results from any of the AFTs that I've done, any of the emotional work that I've done, all of the conscious language work and stuff that I've intentionally been doing. I feel like I have so much better results from it because I'm taking the CBD on a daily basis. So for the most part, I'm just taking like half a dropper to a full dropper of the CBD oil every day. Or if I don't get around to pulling this out of the fridge and using it, I'm swiping myself with a roll-on that has it. So I'm getting a little bit of CBD, somewhere between 10 and 33 milligrams a day. My endocannabinoid system is taken care of. And when I do other work, like work on my immune system, work on my emotional system, all of that, I have such a better return on the work that I'm doing because one of my systems is completely taken care of in a way that I didn't even realize I needed to take care of it before. So if there's any questions, you can go ahead and type them in here and I'll just respond to you guys as they come through. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Love all that. And then last we have Steve Muse with his testimony.
Everybody, I just wanted to jump on here real quick. Kara asked me if I wanted to do this. I said, fine. I'm an electrical engineer by trade. And a couple of years ago, I sit there, I go and I speak a lot and I do a lot of presentations, and I noticed that I had a lot of trouble holding papers and stuff still. And I'm doing a lot of detail work in my electrical cabinets. You know, when you've got high voltage all around, you need to be precise. And the problem was, well, I'm going to exaggerate it, but my hands were doing this all the time. So I was like, Janet saw that, you know, worried and everything like that. Went to doctors, went to a neurologist, checked it all out, make sure it wasn't anything major going on. But what they diagnosed me with was a familial essential tremor. And he goes, right now, it's not too bad. It's something they're going to watch. And he goes, and it can get increasingly worse. Of course, there's options you can do for that. There's like they can go and burn a spot on your brain to try to stop it, but you got to pick a hand and all that kind of stuff like that. And so for what he said, for right now, what we're going to do is we're just going to monitor it, and you just kind of have to kind of get used to what it is. Being in public, having it called out, or just anytime I try to concentrate, it makes it worse. And so I just kind of resigned myself to have to live with that. I figured that's just the way it's going to have to be. Right after convention, Marie and her daughter Lisa came back, and they kind of got a group of us together in Warrensburg, and we kind of just introducing some new products that came out of convention. And we were sitting there chatting, and of course they brought the CBD stuff back. And so I'd never tried CBD oil, so I was like, no big deal. So they just kind of passed around. I'm like, this is the citrus CBD. I'm just gonna put like a half an eyedropper underneath my tongue, you know, sublingual, just to see what that was like.
Like when his brother.
So I took it, didn't really see much, you know, and then we went on, we introduced the rest of the new products, and everything was going great. And we jumped in the car, we got a 30-minute drive home. And when I get home, I sat there and I told Jen, I said, come here, look at this. I said, look at my hands.
They probably didn't have 10 years, but now that they live out here, to work himself.
And so we were like,
he had hired somebody to do it.
Yeah, we weren't flipping then. We were just running.
Yeah.
That next morning, it came back, tremors came back again. And so we went ahead and placed an order. We got some in, and I started taking a half an eyedropper. I did it at first underneath my tongue, half eyedropper of the citrus, just every morning before I went to work. And within about 20 to 30 minutes, I'm completely still.
So
and I can do my job. I can do all that, the high-tech work without the shakes. So it was really, really interesting. And so from that point on, that's like, it was an amazing thing for me to sit there and be able to use that. Down to the point where I can use a half an eyedropper, and I can just take it every other day, and I can still get this kind of stillness right here.
Wasn't it?
And that's really great for my job. It allows me to do my job again. And I've shared, of course, it runs along family lines. I got a brother and a sister. I'm not going to give their testimony or anything right now, but I pass that information along to them, and they are successfully using it both as well. So this has really been amazing. I mean, it's just like, it was a God thing that, you know, Marie and Lisa and Young Living kind of brought this out and gave it to us and allowed us to have this really amazing product. And, you know, something I just, you know, just surrendered to. I'm going to have this problem for ever and ever. It's just only going to get worse. You know, Young Living brought this amazing product out, and it does an amazing thing. I love what it does. Usually on a half an eyedropper, I can get 8 to 10 hours before I notice it slowly coming back. But, and there's a lot of other benefits to go with it, but for my familial essential tremor, it works amazing. So that's my story.
I love it, Steve. So someone had asked, because it was cutting out, that when you first used it, it was like 30 minutes from when you noticed the difference, right?
Yep, about 20 to 30 minutes, I'd notice it.
And then how much are you taking every day?
half of an eyedropper of the 500 milligram citrus underneath my tongue. Same thing,
Love
hold
it.
it underneath there for about a minute. Yep.
That's awesome. Okay, so that's, thank you everyone for sharing tonight. That's the testimonies that we had lined up to fit in our 45 minutes. And I think we're kind of right within that time frame of that tonight. So I don't know if anyone has any questions that they want to do. If you don't know, like there's so much fascinating stuff with CBD. It's good for you. There's a lot of good stuff and resources out there. If you haven't tried it, I highly suggest even just starting with a calm roll-on or the muscle rub. I like to say the simple thing is if you have emotional support, then need emotional support, get the calm roll-on. If you need muscle support, get the muscle rub, and then everything else that you might possibly need an oil or could use something for, then go for the oils. That's kind of the simple version of what I would tell people to do. But I don't know if anyone has any questions or if they want to share anything in for the next, we have like about 10 more minutes on this call. It's quiet. No one has any questions?
Has anybody heard if the unflavored is coming back?
No, the only thing I heard from corporate, I think when we were out in Kansas last month, was there would be more stuff coming towards the end of the year. But, you know, of course, with everything, who knows, time frame.
Kara?
Yeah.
I don't know if you can hear me.
Yeah,
my name is Laura. Okay, good. Several of the people were talking about their dosages, and like, especially even just the last gentleman, and they were saying they were just taking it once a day, but then he also said it only lasted 8 to 10 hours. So I'd like to know if any of them were taking it twice a day, or more often than just once a day, because that's
yeah,
important.
no, I hear what you're saying, and they can answer that. One thing I'm going to tell you is it's going to be like, and this is what Dr. Ali says in his book too, every single person is different, and you have, starting out slow and frequently is better than doing something like once and then waiting a couple days. It is best to start out slow and see what you need with it. Like, and he also said, like, if you took the whole dropper full, like, you know, the whole, like, you know, the big bottle, like you could literally take that whole bottle and it's not going to harm you. So when you're thinking about that as you're taking it, you can't necessarily overdo it, but why waste your money, right? If you only need a little, like me, I only need like on the lowest milligram of the dropper, I can feel that instantaneously, but I need the higher one for the muscle rub. So I think like everyone can answer, like they're using it once or doing it, you know, like Sarah was talking about every half hour of what she was doing. You have to try it and see what works best for you. One of the things that was suggested, they told that the product support people at convention told us this too, is that for 7 days, take a low dose, take the same amount every 7 days, and then reevaluate. How are you feeling? Like, are you looking for muscle support or emotional support, sleep support? And at 7 days, if you're not getting what you want, then up it and then try it again. So you can, like, you need to be consistent to try. I don't know if that helps, but that's what I know.
That's great. That's great information. Rub, and I also find that help adding Copa Eba to the muscle rub really elevates it.
Yep.
Yeah. So thank you.
I have a question for Sarah. When she was making her roll-ons, adding the CBD to the roll-ons, were you still putting them in the refrigerator after mixing it?
No, just the one. So actually I have one here. So when I travel, I will put my CBD that I put under my tongue in a spray bottle so I can bring it with. So this went to Florida. Do you see how it's pink? That's why I store this in the fridge, because when it gets warm, it starts to change colors and then the flavor starts to break down and it doesn't taste as fresh. But the muscle rub is pretty much solid and it's contained and it's not going to break down. And I feel like the roll-ons there's so many oils in there that it's just going to keep it from breaking down any further than it already is. But there's so few oils in this that the MCT or something in here just breaks down really quickly and it turns this funny pink color. So that's why I keep it in the fridge. It just stays fresh longer.
I know you're supposed to keep it in the fridge, but do you find that if you don't, it's problematic? Does it make the product deteriorate or?
I just think it doesn't taste as good. So I think it would still be okay. I mean, it honestly though just depends on how fast are you going to use it. Because if you're doing half a dropper, it's going to last you 2 months. And if you're doing a full dropper, it'll last you a month, like roughly. So I just keep it in the fridge, just like your Life 9. Your Life 9 can sit on the counter. It's fine. You can travel with it. It's totally fine. But if you're going to use it infrequently or less frequently, it's going to stay fresh longer in the fridge.
Thank you.
Kara, this is Nadine. I heard the reason that you keep it in the fridge is when you're using that dropper under your tongue, if you happen to touch your tongue or something, then you could get a germ in it. And so keeping it in the refrigerator keeps it from the germs growing. That's
And I've never kept mine in the fridge, but you know what I do with it is I actually pour it on a spoon and then I take it that way is when I've let people try it. So that's an option too. I know some people had asked on here a book. This, if you can see this book, Chèrie has them in her office too. Dr. Ollie Wanker, it's called he has one, but I will tell you, and I'm a green, I like details, like 70% green. It was almost over my head. So unless you really want to have tons and tons of details and scientific stuff, if you want that, then get Dr. Ollie's. Otherwise, there's a short one by Cody Lynn Kaler on CBD that's a very easy read. Then it would go that route on it. But if you want all the data and all the details and all the references, then get Dr. Ollie's. But I loved it for the details, but a lot of people, I think it would be too much. Chèrie, I didn't stop record. I don't know if on your end, if you want to stop recording or anything, it's still going. If we want to, I know it's 9 o'clock too.
Here's the 3 books. I had to run out and get them, so I didn't hear you. So here's one. And this one's really awesome, like seriously awesome. It's by Cody Lynn Kaler, okay? Here's another one. This one's really, really nice as well. And then of course, Doc Ollie's.
Yep.
So just get a hold of my office, y'all, okay? Just get a hold of the office and I can help you get what you need. Thank you. And I don't know how to turn off the recording, so.
I can just hit, I'm just gonna hit stop. I'm gonna hit stop.
Okay.
Stop cloud recording.